And so the result is that today, we are importers of, from the lowest second-hand time, we started borrowing. And to encourage us to borrow more, economists tell us about how much you can borrow in relation to GDP. They'll always have some statistics as if this were in the holy documents. And so we borrowed to a point that they now came back to say, you have overborrowed. And for us to support you, you must devalue your currency. You must float it. Thus subsidize consumption. And when you devalue your home, goods and services produced at home will be cheap.
At first, when I saw this particular video from Oshimhole, I was like, was this video edited? Is this a current video, recent video, or what's really going on? That Oshimhole is revealing all these things. A situation that is part and parcel of. It's part of the system. Now, let's imagine that, according to what he said here, that some of the conditions they are giving Nigeria now, that some of the things we are seeing in Nigeria is part of the condition they are giving Nigeria for overborrowing. Imagine you now, you are borrowing money from somebody, and that person came to you and said, "Oga, you have overborrowed now." They're even reminding you that you have overborrowed, and now start giving you condition, which means some of these things that you are seeing, all these so-called policies you are seeing, floating the naira, devaluing the currency, was the condition they gave Nigeria for our too much of borrowing. I will not talk too much. Just sit down and watch the full video from beginning to the end and hear what Senator Oshimhole, APC member, he's part of the system. Hear what he said concerning the policies of this administration. I remember my humble self, the Eichmann. Peace and love. Don't play.
Liberal economic policies have failed Nigeria. I want to be able to see the president saying, yes, Africa, we have disagreements, but I am elected to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not of Africa Charter. We would relate with other countries. The days must be over when we talk of Africa as the centerpiece of our foreign policy, and wait to one in which Nigeria and the welfare and the well-being of Nigeria is the central focus of Nigeria foreign policy. If it is not good for Nigeria, we will do it. How can you subscribe to something that you cannot participate in? How can you have a free market where you only buy but you have nothing to sell? And the only thing we have to sell is crude. And that crude is not determined competitively. It is determined by some forces in the West, whether the president of US is sick, or whether the publish of data, it shows that economy is slowing down, that affects the price of oil, whether China is growing or China is slowing down, and all of that. And so the result is that today, we are importers of, from the lowest second-hand time, we started borrowing. And to encourage us to borrow more, economists tell us about how much you can borrow in relation to GDP. They'll always have some statistics as if this were in the holy documents. And so we borrowed to a point that they now came back to say, you have overborrowed. And for us to support you, you must devalue your currency. You must float it. Thus subsidize consumption. And when you devalue your home, goods and services produced at home will be cheaper, and therefore you have greater export opportunities. Because Nigeria-made goods, we find cheaper prices overseas, and foreign goods will be too expensive for the natives to buy, since we are now in our native land. And because they can't buy, we've got to have a more realistic balance of trade. And that is how around 1978 or so, the naira was devalued from where it was 1 naira to 1.5 US dollars. When I went to UK to pay my school fees in the UK, I got my check from, I believe, Barclays Bank, which is now Union Bank. And I said, if indeed there is such thing as a visible hand, why do we elect a president? Why do we elect a government? The market, by its nature, is not accountable except to the buyer and the seller.